Hello again, everybody. In a previous video I said I'd consider doing a Death Knight PvP guide, so I'm going to make one. But this is going to be as in-depth as I'm trying to be. I'm going to try and explain everything in detail just so that I really sort of make clear how things work. So here I am at Icarus, the Ebonhold, home sweet home for a Death Knight. And I believe the training dummy's on the second floor. And here he is. Okay, so before I start smashing away at it, I will start by saying Frost is going to be the first one I shall explain. Okay, where to begin? I suppose the most simple way to begin is explaining talents. Okay, so as I said in my Gilneas video, I take Unholy Blight. This is because it allows you to multi-dot everything around you, but more importantly, it allows you to stick to certain classes with movement speed impairments. This is because of Chillblains. Chillblains reduces movement speed of everything with Frost Fever by 50%. Yes, it sucks, we're a class that actually has the spec into having a slow. Okay, so with that ability, and constantly reapplying the diseases with Unholy Blight, you can constantly reapply the slow. So something like a druid will shapeshift out of a slow, break it, and then it'll instantly be reapplied. So this allows you to stick to a druid and anything else that might have that kind of ability. Plague Leech, you could make a case for it if you've got a way to instantly reapply the diseases through something such as Outbreak, but for the sake of keeping diseases on your target, I wouldn't advise it. Excuse me a moment. Had to cough. Roiling Blood, again, not a great option because you never use Blood Boil. Oh, well, you do sometimes, but it's very rarely. I'll cover that once I'm explaining the actual abilities. Lichborn, immune to all charm, fear and sleep. So if somebody fears you, you can use this. If somebody uses seduction on you, or a sleep shot, anything like that, you can get out of it. Also, Death Coil will heal you if you target yourself while this is active, and use Death Coils on yourself. Chillblains, I've just explained. Asphyxiate is the better option if you are teamed up with somebody that has a very reliable way of applying a slow, although the root in this one is also very nice. I prefer to take Chillblains most of the time. Conversion. This, as your gear level increases and thus your health gets higher, gets better and better. Restores 3% of maximum HP every second. Not every 3 like some cases with other classes, every 1 second. Only base runic power generation from spending runes may occur while this conversion is active. That is not true. Horn of Winter still works. And I think what it really refers to is the fact that in Frost Presence you gain extra runic power, 20% extra. Blood Tap. Every time you use a Frost Strike or any other runic power ability, you gain a blood tap rune thingy, and you can consume 5 of them to get a death rune. This is the only option in PvP, and in PvE, in my opinion. If you are not using blood tap in PvP, you are quite simply doing it wrong. No questions asked. The other 3, Remorseless Winter is garbage because it has a ramp up time and it's very clear graphic to avoid. Desecrated Ground is good for having a second kind of trinket. There's not many situations where this isn't a great choice. Engulfing's Grasp, this can be good, although it requires coordination. It's very nice in rated battlegrounds because you can use it to target people and AoE group them into something such as a Solar Beam, or a Vortex, or a Ring of Frost, or target a friendly player such as a warrior that's Bladestorming and get everyone Bladestormed by him. So that is also a good choice. Glyphs. This one's great, Anti-Magic Shell, because it makes it not a 75% reduction, it makes it 100. This one makes it regenerate quicker. Loud Horn. This is nice to team up with Conversion, but it's very not worth it, if I'm honest. Glyph of Death and Decay. This is great in arenas because it stops people pillar kiting as effectively. Other ones which we're taking is Icy Touch because it makes it into a purge. And everything else is absolute trash. As far as minor glyphs go, Resilient Grip is a standard one. Long Winter's nice because of the 1 hour duration, and Path of Frost, there's quite a few situations where you might be taking fall damage, and it's just nice to have less health being reduced by that. Okay, onto the actual abilities themselves. Icy Touch you never use unless you have the Purge Glyph, or you're trying to avoid using single target damage. Death Strike is good if you're fighting something that is unable to... okay, like a warrior for instance, if it's got Die by the Sword up and its parry chance goes up to 100, Death Strike can't be parried, so you can keep doing damage to the warrior with this, and healing yourself, obviously. Any time where you need to heal yourself, it's a good choice to use Death Strike in addition to Conversion. Necrotic Strike. Now this is something which is very, very important in PvP. It does barely any damage, it's only 130% weapon damage, but it absorbs, based on attack power, I think, if I just cancel my Horn of Winter I'll be able to just check that. So without the Horn of Winter it does 46,000 healing absorption, with Horn of Winter 50,000, so it does scale. And it also stacks. If I just put 2 Necrotic Strikes on this thing here, you can see it's stacked up to absorb the next 229,000 healing received. This is because Battle Fatigue and Resilience don't apply to the target dummies. So you always want to try and get lots and lots of Necrotic Strikes. They cost a Death Rune. Frost starts with 2 Death Runes by standard, and you can generate more by using your Blood Tap. So you always, when you're going to try and make a kill on something, try and use Necrotic Strikes. If you are not trying to make a kill on something, but you are fighting a caster, you can use it to reduce the cast time by 10%, which is always nice. And pretty much every class always has some form of self heal, which is usually ticking constantly, such as a hunter while its pet's alive, life drains on any other things. There's always something that's worth using at least 1 or 2 Necrotic Strikes throughout the duration of the fight for, before they actually get into an execute phase. Next up, Strangulate. 1 minute cooldown silence, lasts for 5 seconds. It's quite a good ability, but it does cost a Blood Rune, so you've got to make sure that you have a macro to activate a Blood Rune through Blood Tap, just to make sure that you always get it just when you need it. Pillar of Frost, the main cooldown, is also 1 minute, and it increases your strength by 20% and makes you immune to all knockbacks. A brilliant ability when you're on the Lumber Mill, because then you won't get knocked off, or in Eye of the Storm, if a Shaman or a Druid is hanging around in the centre. And also, just because it increases your strength, it also increases your parry, because parry scales with strength. And the cooldown is nice and short, so that's great as well. 20-second duration too, so it's quite a long time. And because it increases your strength, Necrotic Strike, 50,000, activate Pillar of Frost, now it does more, 70,000, there you go. So it actually increases the power of your Necrotic Strikes, as well as all your standard attacks. Okay. Plague Strike, 1 Unholy Rune, barely any damage, but it gives the target a Blood Plague, which is something that you always want to have on your target. If there is no other way through an Unholy Blight or Outbreak to apply your diseases, you will need to Plague Strike. Howling Blast, AoE attack, does a fairly decent amount of damage and applies Frost Fever. This is the ability that you will be using to apply your diseases when you have your proc active, which procs off Killing Machine. Obliterate, so there's the proc there at the top. And you can use that on Icy Touch if you've got the glyph, or you can just use it on Howling Blast, like so. What else? We have Frost Strike, that is your basic runic power attack. Soul Reaper, we use this when something is on less than 35% to do some shadow damage. It's your execute, always make sure to use it. You can use Necrotic Strikes, spam them at 35% to ensure that your target does stay below 35%, and then after 5 seconds the Soul Reaper will go off and do the damage. Soul Reaper is also great to use on something that you know is going to die in less than 5 seconds, because then it gives you a haste buff for 5 seconds, 50% haste, so your runes will regenerate extremely quickly. Unholy and Frost Runes equals Obliterate. This is your main attack, a very powerful one at that. And you always want to be using two-handed, by the way, as PvP. Never use dual wield, it's not as good. Mind Freeze. This is your interrupt. Use it as needed. Pestilence. This is when you want to make sure everything has diseases on them, which isn't always an important thing to do. But when that is the case, be sure to use Pestilence. Blood Tap. This is the Blood Tap Death Rune regenerating bread and butter ability that you should all be taking. Over to the next row. Bandages. Obvious. Lichborn. Now this isn't actually just Lichborn because I have a macro. This is the Lichborn version I use. Show tooltip Lichborn just so it has a tooltip. Cancel Aura Lichborn first, then cast Lichborn. What this will then do, I can demonstrate. If you look over my head, I can use it, and that will put the Lichborn symbol over my head. If I use it again, it will cancel the Lichborn aura. This is because smart priests will try to shackle you, and when you get shackled, it's not much fun because that is just yet another crowd control. So you can try and be aware of priests and just prevent that from happening. Horn of Winter. If you have dead time, use it because it generates runic power, and runic power is always nice to have. Strangulate. Wait, I already explained those two. Death Grip. Death Grip is your gap closer. It's got a long cooldown. 25 seconds might not sound long. It is. You can never catch up to a hunter that uses disengage properly. However, if you use Death Grip with PvP gear, I shall just do it on this target over here, you can use another Death Grip within 3 seconds. That target is tapped. That is tapped. That is tapped. Is there anything that isn't tapped? What the fuck is going on here? Apparently I can't use Death Grip on any of these things. Well, in my PvP videos you will have seen me using double Death Grips. So always be sure to use that. You can use it, then run away for 2.5 seconds and grip somebody even further out of a fight. Or you can use it on 2 separate targets. Both are good options. Always make sure that you use it because it will fade and then you won't get another chance till the cooldown is ready again. Icebound Fortitude. This is one of your defensives. It's got a disgustingly long cooldown compared to other classes, such as a Druid, which only has 1 minute cooldown for exactly the same damage reduction. We have 3 minutes. Icebound Fortitude, 20% isn't a lot of damage reduction, so most of the time you don't want to ever use it until you get stunned, because it will actually break the stun, as well as making you immune to them. So it's best used as a stun breaker, or if you are in a desperate situation, you do need the damage reduction, then there are situations where it will be more useful just to use it to help you stay alive. But like I say, it is best used to break stuns. Anti-Magic Shell. 45-second cooldown, quite short. Absorbs all the damage you are taking from spell effects up to a maximum of 50% of your health. If you are in Blood Presence, your health is increased, like so, which means that you can absorb even more with your anti-magic shell. So if you are taking a bit of a beating, it might be worth doing that. Otherwise, stay in Frost Presence and keep on attacking stuff. Choice is yours depending on the situation. It also makes things, spell effects, makes you immune to them if anything's getting applied. So if you use anti-magic shell while someone's in the middle of a chaos bolt, or any other debuff or a dot or anything such as that, it will make any effects not apply. So if somebody's trying to fear you, for example, or cyclone you, and you can see it's in the middle of the cast time, use anti-magic shell and it won't affect you. So it's very nice to avoid various things. Unholy Blight I already explained, same with Conversion. Death Coil. You need Death Coil on your action bars because Lichborn heals. Yes, it's not really a great ability for Frost, but there are situations where the enemy might be really far away and you've run out of Howling Blasts, and a Death Coil or two might finish them off. And like I said, for the Lichborn heals. Outbreak. This applies your damage over time diseases. Always use it to apply, because then you can save runes to use actual normal attacks. Also worth mentioning is dots are empowered by your Pillar of Frost, so always use Pillar of Frost before using your damage applying abilities such as Outbreak and Unholy Blight to make them stronger. Same goes for the Ghoul. It will also be empowered by Pillar of Frost. So if you have Pillar of Frost active and you need a bit more DPS, summon your Ghoul, because he isn't useless, he does do a nice amount of damage, and he will help you out. Dark Simulacrum. This is very sketchy. It can be amazing and it can be completely, utterly worthless. You can use it to apply the debuff to somebody in the middle of a cast time to try and help ensure that you will steal that ability, but sometimes instant casts mean that won't happen. For example, if somebody is casting a polymorph on you, you can use anti-magic shell so that the polymorph won't affect you, and use Dark Simulacrum on the mage before the cast time finishes, and then you will steal polymorph, and then you can use it on him or any other person at your leisure. Some other things that you can use to steal are things like Ice Barrier, Fear, anything that's like a self buff or a debuff are the best things to steal. Never try to steal things like Chaos Bolts, Frost Bolts, Incinerate, things like that, because you as the Death Knight have no spell power, and because those abilities scale with spell power, the abilities that you steal that do damage are really crap. Really crap. You can see Shadow Bolts doing less than 1,000 damage and things like that. So always try and take utility abilities. Empower Rune Weapon. 5 minutes is a long cooldown, but if you're trying to make a kill on somebody, you can use this to get all your runes back and some runic power. So if you have 4 death runes, you can stack up Blood and Necrotic Strikes on them, use an Obliterate, empower your Rune Weapon, get 2 more Necrotic Strikes, a Soul Reaper, and more Obliterates and Frost Strikes. It's a really nice burst cooldown to try and make sure that you can finish somebody off. I am a Blood Elf, because Blood Elves are cool. I don't care what the haters say, I've never understood them, they've been around since Warcraft 3. Deal with it. Blood Elves are cool because they have an AoE silence for 2 seconds, and it restores some runic power. This is a brilliant ability to try and use after your Strangulate, after your Mind Freeze, after your any other kind of abilities, just to try and make sure that somebody never ever gets a cast off. Death and Decay. This is your AoE ability, and its only use is to do AoE damage. It can't interrupt flag caps. It's good in arenas to use with the Death and Decay glyph to cause slurs around pillar kiting, but other than that, it's just AoE damage. It might be useful, it might not be, depends on the situation as usual. Desecrated Ground I already explained. Army of the Dead, if you're in random battlegrounds this can work. Use it if you need more things to do damage. Trinket, use it when necessary. A good thing to use it on is Disarm, because Disarm is horrible for Death Knights. And then if you get crowd controlled further, you have your Icebound Fortitude and your Desecrated Ground and your Anti-Magic Shell to try and help reduce anything that might crowd control you. Path of Frost, because of the fall damage and useful over water walking situations. Blood Boil. Blood Boil is good if you think there is somebody in stealth around. Then you can use Blood Boil and it will reveal them out of stealth. That is the only situation you will be using Blood Boil as a Frost Death Knight. Then you have your Health Stones, always have them within easy reach. Symbiosis, in case you get some Plague Mushrooms. And Raise Ally does work in random battlegrounds, so try and have access to that as well. Only thing left to cover is the Presences. Blood Presence is a defensive one. Use it when you are needing more health. Maybe you have the flag and you need more health, or you're just taking a beating and need some more survivability. But all other times, unless you need to desperately be in some run speed for Unholy Presence, you want to be in Frost Presence. This is a great spec, or presence rather, because it makes Frost Strike cost 20 runic power, so you can get 5 of those off if you have 100, and it reduces all crowd control effects by 20%, which is very nice. So that is Frost, and I think this video might have been quite long, so I'm going to carry on, but I'll try using annotations to skip ahead to the next sections. So, let us change to Blood. Blood is your tank spec, and it is kind of viable in PvP for flag running and stuff. So if I just put my flag carry gear on, always have Bone Shield up. It's a short cooldown, 1 minute, and it lasts 5 minutes, so you can always have it up providing you aren't being attacked, and refresh it if you are getting attacked. You should have a Battle Master Trinket because you run both stamina trinkets. This will give you a bit more survivability by raising your maximum health, and since Death Strike and other abilities rely on your maximum health because it does a percentage heal, that will actually make you heal for more. You always want to be in Blood Presence, no exceptions unless you're running with the flag and you're trying to make it faster or something. Rune Tap instantly heals 10% of your health, which can be quite a lot, as you can see, over 100,000, but I don't have Battle Fatigue or Resilience and all that nonsense affecting me right now, so that does look like a little more. Necrotic Strike, you do want to have it around because it's useful, and you can get a lot of death runes as blood. Chains of Ice. I didn't actually explain this for Frost. Always use Chains of Ice. It applies a slow for a little bit, and applies Frost Fever. Plague Strike, again, just applies your diseases. Heart Strike. Heart Strike costs a blood rune, and it does a cleave attack on up to 2 additional targets. It's okay, but most of your blood runes want to be used on Blood Boil and Rune Tap. But if you have no option otherwise, then feel free to use Heart Strike. Rune Strike. This cannot be attacked, dodged, blocked, or parried. This is your rogue killing friend. Always target rogues. Evasion won't help them. It's like overpower in that regard. So as long as you have runic power, you can kill them, and it's all nice. Soul Reaper. It's your finisher. You might get an opportunity to use it as blood. Death Strike is your main ability. Even when you have lots of death runes, you probably want to use in Death Strike regardless because it gives you a heal, and because of your mastery, it gives you a shield. If I just attack this, for example, you can see up here, I absorb the next 93,000 incoming physical damage. Physical damage, not magic. Mind Freeze is your heal. No, it's not. God, why can I not talk today? It's your interrupt. Blood Boil. Blood Boil as blood refreshes diseases, which is very nice. And you can also, as blood, take Roiling Blood, which makes it also spread diseases. While I am currently on this page, I may as well explain more about my talent choices. So I've taken Roiling Blood for the reason I've just explained. Lichborn stays the same, as does Conversion. Runic Corruption, I think this is a better option for blood, because you don't need death runes. You need just any type of rune to be able to use Death Strike. So if you are getting something that makes your runes regenerate faster, you can Death Strike more. Only other difference is Death's Advance, because you can't get slowed for less than 70% of your normal movement speed as a passive, and when you activate it you can't get slowed less than 100%. So it's nice for escaping things, running with the flag and not getting slowed down. What else? You have Dancing Rune Weapon. This summons a rune weapon which will copy your attacks on the target and does quite a nice amount of damage. And it also gives you parry. Gives you 20% parry, so when you're getting attacked by a melee class, then use your Empower Rune Weapon for a little bit more survivability. As blood, your Iceborne Fortitude does 50% damage reduction, so it's a lot stronger. Vampiric Blood. This increases your healing taken and gives you 15% of your maximum health, unless you use the glyph, which makes it not give you 15% health, but makes you take even more healing from it, up to 40%. When used in combination with Death Strikes, Rune Taps, and Conversion, this makes you heal for a fucking ton. So if I just put my diseases on, because that's what you should always be doing, activate my Vampiric Blood, you can see my Rune Tap heals for 156k, my Death Strikes heal for over 100,000, and my Conversion ticks 47,000. This is all obviously before Battle Fatigue. When you get these two blood things on the sides, that means your next Death and Decay or Blood Boil will be free, so always make use of that. There is also another one which gives you a weird rune symbol at the top here above your character. That means your next rune tap cooldown is reset and the next one is free of charge. You want to keep Death Coil because, again, self-healing. There's the Death's Advance, and nothing else is actually related to blood. So what I am now going to do is mount up, go upstairs, and change over to Unholy. Get rid of the blood spec because I don't need it anymore, because I don't intend to do much flag carrying. And it's actually downstairs, not upstairs. I should have actually just used the teleport. Anyway, go over to our Lich friend over here, have a little chat with him, say I want to reset my class specialisation, and it costs 68 gold. QQ. So now we can reset our specialisation. How do I do that? Go into Unholy, use that, and quickly just readjust all of my abilities to suit my new spec. Bear with me just a moment. Just gotta set everything up. Blah de blah de blah. That's not applicable anymore. That's not applicable anymore. Where is all the stuff? Festering Strike. We want that to be over there. Just bear with me. I won't be long. Soul Reaper. That one goes there. We are missing Scourge Strike. That goes there. And we want to just quickly change our talents. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Take that and that. Get rid of this. Take that. Put everything back where I like to have them. And I've already got that. Okay, that seems fine. And we want our cooldowns. We've got everything over here. Don't need that anymore. I think that's everything. I think. Yeah, seems to be. Okay, Unholy. You have two cooldowns as Unholy. You have Unholy Frenzy and you have your Gargoyle. You want to use them together in that order, which will buff your Gargoyle's haste. I've got them macroed into this all-in-one kind of thing here. So I will put that on my action bars. I also have one for Dark Transformation, just to use a blood tap to make sure I have it. What else? I already have my Lichborn glyph, sorry, not glyph, macro, Mind Freeze, Outbreak. Yes, everything's looking okay, and I want to actually use Pestilence there instead, and get rid of my Taunt and pull Blood Boil back where it belongs. Okay, sorted. Sorry about that. Just had to readjust everything. So blood is gone. We are now Unholy, so we don't want to have this glyph anymore. We don't want to have that glyph anymore. We will definitely want to take Unholy Frenzy, because Unholy Frenzy self-harms, and that is not good in PvP. And we are going to find that Purge glyph, and we are going to use that. There we go. So now that we are using Purge, we are using Icy Touch. We definitely want that to have on our action bars. I have it as Shift C, and we can use that to remove helpful effects such as Priest shields, Druids heal over times, and all the other stuff. Death Strike I already explained, as with Necrotic Strike and Chains of Ice and Plague Strike. Festering Strike, if I just put my diseases up here with Outbreak. Festering Strike extends the duration of the diseases. So you can see on my add-on here, they're at 20 seconds now. If I use Festering Strike, adds a bit more time to them, and a bit more time again. This also increases the duration of Chains of Ice, so you can make Chains of Ice last longer, which makes Asphyxiate more viable, but I would not take that if I was you, which I will explain soon. Unholy always wants its ghoul up. There is my ghoul, Stone Cruncher. They also have stupid names. You also want to be using Death Coil as your main ability for runic power, and you can get free Death Coils as you attack your targets. You also want to be in a Holy Presence, which I'm not for some reason. When you get this green sludge at the sides, that means you've got a free Death Coil, so make sure that you use them. I'll just carry on doing abilities and stuff. Now, Plague Strike's a little different with Unholy. It applies both diseases, which is awesome. So we'll just get a few more things going. Now, as Unholy, you get this symbol above here once you have 5 stacks of Shadow Infusion. Shadow Infusion increases your pet damage by 10% each stack. Once you have 5 stacks, you can consume all of them and transform your ghoul into an Abomination type guy. When he's in this form, he has a 4-second stun instead of 3. He has cleaving attacks, and if he just goes over here, if I just pull him back and then tell him to attack this, he rushes in. That roots them in place, so that's kind of awesome, and it interrupts spellcasting too. Something I did forget to put on my action bars is Gnaw. So that's the abilities that the ghoul gets when he's empowered. When he's not empowered, he's just regular old little ghoulie. Soul Reaper does shadow damage, as I previously explained. Since you are Unholy in this situation, shadow damage is buffed by your mastery, and Soul Reaper hits like a truck. It's a very nice execute. So always be sure to use it. Unholy also uses Scared Strike for their main attack. It only costs 1 Unholy rune. If you aren't necrotic striking, or it's not a good idea to, then feel free to use your death runes on Scared Strike. What else? I covered most of this stuff in the Frost video, because Unholy is obviously another DPS spec, so a lot of things remain the same. Yes, everything in fact remains the same, except I have Gnaw, which is your stun with your ghoul. So if I just show you how to kill things very effectively, in order to use your burst efficiently, you want to just attack on the target by whatever means necessary, and eventually you will get into a situation where you have your ghoul ability ready to transform. When your ghoul is ready to transform, ensure that all the diseases are on the target, like so. Transform the ghoul, summon your gargoyle, spam necrotic strikes, get a Soul Reaper on your target, and then empower your rune weapon. Even more necrotic strikes, even more Soul Reaper if required. Keep on spending your runic power and your death runes. Keep using blood tap to try and keep getting more and more death runes. And this is how you kill stuff as Unholy. When you are ready to really make a kill combo, you use your ghoul stun, which will stun it for 4 seconds, and then you will see, if you're using a class timer, it doesn't work on this target for some reason. About 0.3 seconds before that's about to fade, if you're attacking a caster with it, use your Strangulate, and then you will have controlled them for a 4-second stun and a 5-second Strangulate. And with all the necrotic strikes, gargoyle attacks, ghoul attacks, your attacks, necrotic strikes, Soul Reapers, all that kind of stuff, that is how you kill things as Unholy. As Frost, it's exactly the same, except you won't be able to use a stun because your ghoul doesn't have one. You won't use a gargoyle, but you do have Pillar of Frost to make very, very hard-hitting obliterates. So, that is PvP in a nutshell. I think I covered practically everything that's needed. I hope I did. So, yeah. That's about as in-depth as I think I can go. So I'm hoping that this was helpful. It's been a long video. I'm going to try and stick annotations in it to try and fast forward to the different specs. Yeah, so that's me done. Thanks for watching and goodbye.